My gay bodyguard kissed me without warning, and I liked it. He was just supposed to protect me. That's all. Nothing more. When I first hired him, I thought he was quiet, professional, distant even. I didn't know anything about his personal life, and I didn't ask. I had my world, he had his. And honestly, I liked it that way. But something shifted. It started with glances, subtle ones. The kind you catch only if you're looking too closely. And I was. Then came the late-night drives where silence felt heavier, filled with unspoken thoughts. He always stood just a little too close, like he was shielding more than just my body. And then, it happened. One night, without a word, he kissed me. I didn't expect it. I didn't ask for it. But I didn't pull away either. What followed unraveled everything I thought I knew about myself. And about him. This story isn't just about a bodyguard and the man he was hired to protect. It's about boundaries being tested, identities being questioned, and desires that refuse to be buried. Stick around to find out how one unexpected kiss turned into the most complicated and beautiful chapter of my life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story that'll make your heart race and your soul stir. I don't know when I started noticing him. I mean, he was always there. That was his job, after all. A shadow behind me. A wall of quiet strength between me and the world. People saw me first. The one giving the orders, signing the contracts, smiling in the photos. No one ever really looked at him, except me. And even that took time. His name was Jace. He was tall, built like someone who took his job seriously, always dressed in black or navy, always a step behind. I hired him after the threats started coming in. Anonymous emails, suspicious packages, people waiting too long outside my office. My assistant thought I was overreacting. My lawyer said I was smart. Me? I just wanted peace of mind. Jace brought that. He never spoke unless necessary, but there was something grounding about him. His presence calmed me, even on my worst days. At first, I didn't think much of it. He was just efficient. But then came that night outside the charity gala. I remember the way the rain started falling. Light at first, then heavier, soaking through my tux before I could even get in the car. I was frustrated, tired, cold. I cursed under my breath. And then he stepped forward, silently opening his umbrella over me. His arm brushed mine. I looked up. He didn't say anything, just stood there, holding the umbrella like it was the most natural thing in the world. But his eyes met mine, dark, unreadable, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. It should have ended there. A look. Nothing more. But that's when I started seeing him differently. Not as my bodyguard, not as someone I paid, but as a man. The next few weeks were a blur of business meetings, late nights, and travel. But I started catching myself watching him. The way his sleeves hugged his arms. The way he scanned a room with that razor focus. The way he always pulled the car door open before I even reached for it. It was subtle, dangerous. I told myself it was nothing. Then came Miami. We'd flown in for a conference. 5 days, 3 panels, too many photos. The hotel was sleek, too sterile for my taste, but the suite was large. I'd just finished a long dinner with investors and returned to find Jace already stationed by the window, looking out over the city. He didn't turn when I entered. "You don't have to stay all night," I said, tossing my jacket on the chair. "Get some sleep." "I'm fine," he said, his voice low, steady. I poured myself a drink and leaned on the counter. The silence stretched between us. I wanted to say something, anything. But what? Finally I asked, "Don't you ever get tired of standing?" He turned to me then. No. One word, but it held weight, like there was more he wasn't saying. I stepped closer. Do you ever get tired of pretending you don't notice things? I asked. His jaw tightened. What things? He said. I didn't answer, just walked past him toward the window. The city lights flickered below, but all I could feel was the heat of his presence behind me. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the alcohol or the late hour or the weeks of tension building in silence. But I turned around. He was closer than I expected. I could hear his breath. And then his eyes dropped to my lips, just for a second. But it was enough. He stepped back quickly, like he'd crossed a line. I should go, he muttered, already heading toward the door. Jace, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. He froze. I wasn't going to do anything, he said without turning around. I wouldn't, unless you wanted me to. The words punched the air out of my lungs. My chest tightened, not with fear, but something closer to thrill. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was caught between every rule I'd ever followed and every impulse I'd ever buried. He waited. And then, without warning, he turned back, his steps quiet, controlled, and he kissed me. Not rough, not timid, just certain. I didn't push him away, and the worst part? I liked it. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the kiss, over and over again, like a film stuck on loop. The press of his lips, the way his hand hovered near my waist but never touched it, like he wasn't sure if I'd accept more. He pulled away before I could even react. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't say anything. He just left the room without another word. And I stood there, completely still, glass still in hand, wondering what the hell had just happened. I woke up the next morning to an empty suite. No note, no Jace. My phone buzzed with reminders and notifications, but I couldn't focus on any of them. Not until I saw the message at the bottom of the screen. I'll be waiting in the car. Jay. He hadn't disappeared. That should have comforted me. It didn't, because I had no idea how to look him in the eye now. I wasn't even sure what I felt. Just because I didn't stop him doesn't mean I understood why I didn't. The elevator ride down was a blur. My mind was screaming with questions. What if I'd misread everything? What if it was a mistake? What if he regretted it? The moment I slid into the back seat of the SUV, I could feel the tension radiating off him. He didn't turn, just started driving. I didn't expect you to run off, I said finally, my voice low. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. I didn't want to make things worse. Worse? I repeated, half laughing. You kissed me and disappeared. You don't think that made it worse? Silence. The kind that fills a moving vehicle like fog. Finally, he said, I'm your employee. I looked at him. That's what this is about? He met my eyes in the rearview mirror. There was something raw in his expression. That and the fact that you didn't say anything. I wanted to tell him I didn't know what to say, that I'd never been kissed like that, with intention, with fire hidden behind restraint. But I stayed silent, and that silence echoed louder than words. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Conference rooms, panel discussions, half-hearted conversations. I was distracted the entire time. I kept looking at him, always at a distance, always composed. But something had changed. The ease we once had was gone. That night I skipped dinner. I ordered in and paced my hotel suite like a prisoner. My heart ached with a confusion I didn't know how to name. And then there was a knock at the door. I opened it, expecting room service. It was Jace. He stood there in a black hoodie, no jacket, no weapons, just him. Can I come in? He asked, his voice calm but unreadable. I nodded. He stepped inside, shutting the door quietly behind him. For a moment, neither of us said a word. I watched the way his chest rose and fell, how his eyes avoided mine. "I need to know something," he said finally. I swallowed. "Okay." He walked closer, stopping just a few feet away. "Did you want that kiss?" My throat tightened. "Yes," I whispered. "I did." He let out a shaky breath, the kind that tells you someone's been holding it in for hours, maybe days. "But I don't know what it means," I added. "I'm still figuring it out." He nodded slowly. "I can live with that. I just didn't want to pretend it never happened." Neither did I. I took a step closer. "Jace," I started, unsure where I was going with it, but then his phone buzzed, sharp, loud, urgent. He pulled it out of his pocket and his whole posture shifted, alert, defensive, cold. "What is it?" I asked. "Security just flagged a threat," he said, already moving toward the window. "Someone's been watching you since we landed." The tension returned like a slap to the chest. "Is it serious?" I asked. He looked at me, fully, clearly, like the kiss was a lifetime ago. "I don't know yet," he said, "but I need to move you. Now." And just like that, the kiss, the tension, the questions, all of it vanished into something far more terrifying. Because someone out there didn't care about our feelings. They wanted me gone. The new place was barely lit, hidden behind gates and cameras, buried in a residential area no GPS could pin. Jace drove like he was on instinct. 2 phones on the dash, a gun now clearly visible on his hip, his eyes scanning every streetlight and corner like they might shoot back. We didn't talk much on the way, not after what his team found. Photos of me outside the hotel, time-stamped, printed, and left in a trash bin 2 blocks away. Whoever was watching knew where I was, and more importantly, knew I had a weakness. That weakness was him. When we arrived, I stepped out into a cold silence. The safe house looked like any normal bungalow from the outside, but inside it was stripped down to essentials. A couch, a kitchen, 2 rooms, blackout curtains. Jace locked every door behind us, checked each window, then walked the perimeter twice before finally relaxing. His shirt clung to his chest from the Miami heat. He looked like someone ready to collapse but refusing to give in. I stood in the middle of the living room, arms crossed. "Is this really necessary?" He glanced at me. "You want to take that risk?" I didn't answer, not because I agreed, but because I trusted him. He handed me a change of clothes from a duffel bag. "You should get some rest." "I don't think I can," I admitted. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "Me neither." That night, I lay in the bedroom alone, staring at the ceiling, listening to the muffled sound of Jace pacing just beyond the wall. I wondered if he was thinking about the kiss. I was. And the way I'd said yes, not just to the kiss, but to something I didn't understand yet. Eventually, I got up. I found him in the kitchen, leaning against the counter with a glass of water in his hand. His hoodie was off now, leaving only a white undershirt, his arms flexed, exposed. "You look tired," I said. He glanced at me. "I'm fine." "Liar," I added softly. He smiled, just a little, but it wasn't the usual smirk he gave the world. It was something smaller, real. I stepped closer. "Jace, I need to know. Did that kiss mean something to you? Or was it just impulse?" He looked at me, jaw tense. "It meant something. I've been trying not to let it." "Why?" "Because I protect you. That's my job. I can't let feelings blur the line between what I want and what I need to do." His voice was steady, but his eyes gave him away. He wasn't just protecting me from danger. He was protecting me from himself. I didn't realize I was only inches from him now. "You think I don't see that you're hurting too?" I asked. He set the glass down and straightened. "I know how to handle pain. I don't want to be something you have to handle." "You're not," he said. "You're something I can't ignore." The silence that followed was charged, heavy. Neither of us moved. And then, I don't know who leaned first. We were just closer. My hand brushed his. His breath slowed. I could feel the space between us disappear molecule by molecule. But right before our lips touched again, he stopped. His phone buzzed once, then again. He turned, checking it quickly. I saw the screen flash. "Unknown activity near perimeter." His face changed. Back to the soldier. "Get away from the window," he ordered, already reaching for his weapon. My heart dropped. "Is someone here?" "I don't know," he said, "but we're not taking chances." I backed up, pulse racing. He moved like a man trained for this exact moment, checking corners, lights off, movement sharp. I wanted to ask him 1,000 things, about the kiss, about us, about what came next. But suddenly, none of that mattered, because when the power cut out and we were plunged into darkness, Jace whispered, "Stay behind me, and don't say a word." I'd never heard my own heartbeat that loud before. The moment the lights died, the silence became a scream. Jace stood between me and the window, his hand raised in warning, body tensed like a wolf mid-hunt. The power outage couldn't be a coincidence. Not after the message. Not after the photos. We weren't just being watched. We were being hunted. He moved fast, guiding me to the floor behind the kitchen island. I followed without question, crouching down as he checked the locks again. I watched the side of his face, lit only by the soft blue glow of his phone screen, and saw something I hadn't before. Fear. Not for himself. For me. "Do you think they're here?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "I think someone wants us to believe they are," he said. "But I don't like being tested." He pulled a small flashlight from his belt and clicked it on, keeping the beam low. He scanned the perimeter through the window slats. Nothing. Not yet. But I could feel it. Like the storm hadn't started, but the air already tasted like thunder. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Time lost all shape. Finally, after another full sweep, he turned to me. "We're moving at first light." I nodded, still on the floor. "Where?" "Doesn't matter. Somewhere they won't expect. I'll take care of it." "You always say that," I said. His brow furrowed. "Say what?" "That you'll take care of it. That I don't have to worry. But I do worry, Jace. About you." He didn't respond right away, just looked at me like I'd just told him something he wasn't prepared to hear. Then he knelt down in front of me. "I'm not used to being worried about," he said. "Well, get used to it." We stayed like that, quiet, eyes locked, closer than we should have been in the middle of a blackout. Then his hand reached for mine, slowly, hesitantly. When our fingers touched, it was electric, grounding and dangerous at the same time. "I don't want to lie to you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "About the kiss. About how I feel." My heart stuttered. "Then don't." He exhaled. "I've wanted you since the day I met you. I just didn't think I had the right." I shook my head. "You're wrong. You're the only one who's ever made me feel—" A crash outside, metal scraping against pavement. We both froze. He was up in an instant, pressing me back gently with one hand, gun raised with the other. I crouched behind the island again as he approached the front of the house, every movement calculated. Through the window, I saw a car speeding off. The alarm system blinked once, then again. "Decoy," he muttered. "They're probing us, seeing how fast we react." He locked the door again, then came back to me. His adrenaline was still high, his chest rising fast, his eyes scanning everything. I stood slowly. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "Do you trust me?" His gaze flicked to mine. "With everything." "Then stay with me tonight." The air shifted. "I mean it," I said. "Not because I'm scared. Because I don't want to be alone. Not now. Not after that kiss. Not after what you just said." His hesitation was only a breath long. "Okay." We moved to the bedroom, the same one I hadn't been able to sleep in the night before. It felt different now. Not safe, exactly, but shared. He took off his holster, locked it in the drawer, and sat down at the edge of the bed like he didn't quite know what to do next. I lay beside him, our shoulders barely touching. "Is this crossing the line?" I asked. He turned his head toward me. "We crossed it the moment I kissed you." A silence settled again, but this one wasn't heavy. It was full, charged. I reached out, resting my fingers on his forearm. His skin was warm, alive. Then I leaned closer, not to kiss him, but just to be near. And that's when the floorboard creaked in the hallway. Jace sat up instantly. He grabbed the drawer, reached for his weapon. Someone was inside the house. I didn't breathe. Not when Jace stood, gun raised. Not when the creaking sound came again, slower this time, like someone trying not to be heard. Every instinct in me screamed to run, to hide, but my body refused to move. I watched him move silently toward the door, the way his entire being transformed. No longer the man who'd just shared my bed, but the soldier, the protector. He glanced back at me once, 2 fingers up. Stay. Then he vanished into the hallway. The silence stretched too long. I strained to hear. Nothing. No struggle. No gunshot. Just darkness, and my pulse pounding in my ears. I stood against better judgment and crept toward the door. I found him in the living room, standing still, gun lowered. At first I thought he was alone. Then I saw the small, shattered object on the floor, a broken photo frame. My photo. The one I'd left in my suitcase. "It fell," he said, lowering the weapon completely. The vibration must have loosened it when that car sped off earlier. I exhaled so hard I nearly laughed. The tension in my chest gave way to something between relief and disbelief. "That scared the hell out of me," I said, leaning against the wall. "Me too," he admitted, and I could tell he meant it. The adrenaline had shifted into something else now. Not urgency, not fear. Something more raw. We were exposed. Not just physically, not just to the outside world, but to each other. We sat back down on the bed. Neither of us said anything for a while. I stared at the dark ceiling, and he sat beside me, elbows on knees, as if trying to hold the weight of everything he hadn't said. Finally, I broke the silence. "Why did you try to bury it?" I asked. "Your feelings." He didn't look at me. "Because I didn't think I deserved to feel them." "That's not an answer." He sighed. "It's the truth." "Why?" He finally turned to face me, and when he did, it wasn't with that unreadable expression he usually wore. It was with pain. Old, deep, carved into him like a scar. "I wasn't always like this," he said. "Before this job, before I ever held a gun, I loved someone. A man. We kept it quiet. We had to. He was in the military, too. And when we were caught..." His voice caught. He looked away. "He took the blame. Said I had nothing to do with it. Said it was all him. He was dishonorably discharged. I stayed. and I've hated myself for it ever since. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I told myself I'd never let it happen again, that I'd never feel anything for someone who could be hurt by knowing me. So I shut it down. Every part of me that wanted more. His voice was steady, but barely, until now. You broke that, he said. The moment you looked at me like I was more than a shadow. I reached for his hand again. This time he didn't flinch. You're not a shadow, I said. Not to me. His eyes lifted to meet mine. We were so close. Too close. The kind of close that demands something break. The silence, the distance, the fear. And then he kissed me. But it wasn't like before. It wasn't hesitant. It wasn't careful. It was full of everything he'd been holding back. I kissed him back, my hands in his hair, pulling him toward me like I was terrified he might disappear again. We didn't speak after that. We didn't need to. Later, we lay together in the dark, our legs tangled, our breathing slow, like two people who had just survived something we hadn't fully understood. And just when I thought peace had finally found us, when I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be real, my phone buzzed. One new message. We see you. The message froze me. We see you. Jace sat up the second he noticed the light of my screen on my face. What is it? He asked, already shifting back into alert mode. I showed him the screen. His jaw clenched. They're still playing games. He grabbed his phone, checking security logs, surveillance apps, all showing nothing. But we both knew the silence meant nothing anymore. Whoever they are, I said softly, they know we're together. He looked at me then, not just as a client or someone he'd protected, but as someone he'd chosen, someone he loved. I don't care, he said. They can watch. Let them. We left the safe house at dawn. New place, new ID, new plan. But something inside us had changed. We weren't pretending anymore. Over the next weeks, Jace stayed by my side, more than just a bodyguard. The investigation continued, and eventually they found the source. A former investor I'd publicly cut ties with. Jealousy, vengeance, threats, all traced, all stopped. But the biggest threat I'd faced hadn't been the danger outside. It had been the fear of feeling something real. And now I wasn't afraid anymore. One night, in a quiet city we didn't name, I looked at Jace across the table. His hair a little longer now, his eyes softer. I reached for his hand, and this time, I was the one who kissed him first.